This episode of the Coarse Grind Podcast has been brought to you by Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, family-owned and operated screen printing and embroidery business located in a historic storefront on Old Berwick Road in the heart of Espy. They've been doing screen printing for over 20 years. They have high-quality product at a low price. Be sure to check them out. Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, 570-784-1212. Now, on to the show.
Hello, sexy. This is Blind Burka from the Try Channel, and you are listening to The Coarse Grind by Shawn Rosler. Look at you. Have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is episode number 159 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With you as always this evening, host, creator, Shawn Rosler. How's everyone doing? 158. It's like my IQ, just plus like 80, probably. The best part of doing this show, aside from the people I get to meet, definitely has to be the hard left and hard right turns I can put you, the audience, on sometimes. And the best part about that is that they usually take me by surprise first. Take, for example, the story of a former coworker who just happened to start posting knife porn on his Facebook account. No, Mom, if you're listening, not real porn, but pictures that made any self-respecting cutlery aficionado have a moment. By random happenstance, I come to find out that this guy isn't just doing it for fun and isn't just okay with it. He's amazingly skilled, and since I've never had the chance to have a blacksmith who specializes in all things sharp, metal, and dangerous, for the kitchen, of course, I figured now is my chance. A full-time computer nerd who loves to swing a hammer and play with hot steel after stepping away from his computer, tonight's guest is by all accounts a jack of all trades, but blacksmithing is up there for him. With a blacksmith shop located in Catawissa, Pennsylvania, tonight's guest started blacksmithing as a hobby in January of 2017 and started his Blacksmithing LLC in 2019. Sharing his craft at traveling demos such as Native American powwows all over Northeast and Central PA, as well as various festivals and events. He forges everything from knives to his mainstay centers around practical items like cooking utensils and camp tools, to the more dangerous such as tomahawks. Forging jewelry, wands, and other custom items, he's even gone so far as to craft an ornate hanging tentacle pot rack for his kitchen ceiling. Think Cthulhu without the whole killing you thing. Live streams, demos, and plenty of social media to glean his skills from. Having had the chance to use my new 9-inch Nakiri, that's a 9-inch Nakiri, it's like 9-inch nails, but a Nakiri, get it? To trim the meat from a lamb shank, I can assure you he knows what the hell he's doing. On top of all this, did I mention he just happens to have an incredibly awesome name? Alright, fine. It is because it's only one letter different than mine, but that's still pretty cool. So let's just get on with things, shall we, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. Ex-coworker, computer nerd, and blacksmith artisan of culinary weaponry, Shawn Roslevich. What's going on, brother?
Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Of course. Back in the days when we worked for a different place, which shall remain nameless, we'll refer to it as Voldemort, I remember getting so many of your emails, and apparently you got some of mine pretty frequently. And, when you look at the last names, it's pretty reasonable. So that's actually, honest to God, how I came to know you. Like you were somebody there. We had a big department. But then later on now to find out that you're doing this was so super cool. So awesome to see you, for the knife handoff in the shopping parking lot the other night. It's not shady at all. Here's a 9-inch blade. Bye-bye then.
Not shady at all.
No, shit. I can't imagine if someone was actually watching, which no one's watching in the Weis parking lot. But like, if they were, like, two kind of big dudes with beards, which might go away. We're recording this, pulling the curtain back, on the 9th. So my beard might go away tomorrow if we raise enough for Raise the Region. So, but no, it didn't seem sus at all. Two bearded guys just swinging steel in a parking lot. What's not to get? So I knew I had to have you on because you legitimately, for as many firsts as the show has had, you are our first bladesmith ever, which I think is so rad. And the fact that I have one, and the fact that I realized the stamp on the blade is actually my initials too. Like, how good is that? That doesn't always happen that way. So it really is perfect. So I want to pick your brain a little bit and understand, not just your culinary background, which we always go into. That's like standard. But moreover, what made you land on blacksmithing and what makes you so goddamn good at making knives? But before we do that, folks new to the program, folks with terrible short-term memories like yours truly, starters, mains, and afters. Starters, we'll talk about where the guest in question came from. What's their backstory? Mains, we'll talk about where they're at, what they're doing. Again, today, definitely it's going to look a little different, given the guest. And then afters, a little bit more fun, a little bit more irreverent, but no one has been seriously injured in 157 episodes, so I don't see that happening here tonight. So without further ado, Mr. Shawn Roslevich, tell me about where and what you grew up eating.
So I grew up my parents cooked all our meals. I grew up in mostly a Polish household, so a lot of the good Polish food, a lot of ornate Polish celebrations and holidays.
Now we're local to Pennsylvania, obviously, but for those who aren't, can you give us a little insight into what represents the Polish cuisine? Now, I will say we just had Soupy Brothers on, and we definitely dabbled in the Polish, but give us a little more, man.
Well, let's see, like stuffed cabbage. We call it halupki.
Yep.
People here might call it pigs in a blanket, things like that.
Yep.
We got halushki, which is the bacon and noodles and cabbage, which is amazing.
It is. It is.
Yeah. A lot of pierogies.
Yes. Y'all don't know pierogies if you're not from this area. I'm just going to say, I don't get territorial much like the Philly does with the cheesesteaks, and I have no skin in the game, man. I'm Northeast PA German, Native American, tiny little bit. So, like, I got no skin in this game, but goddamn, when pierogi comes up, I'm like, yeah, I know about pierogi. What do you know about pierogi? And like, I like to go toe to toe with them. But pierogi's an art, is it not?
Yeah. And there's so many different types out there. Like, I've had dessert pierogies.
Nice. Like what kind? Do you remember?
It's actually like a prune filling.
Ooh.
And it's really sweet and actually really good.
Beautiful. So, I mean, pretty standard fare for those of us around the area. Like, we know it. We know the story. But for those outside of the area, like, that's a really rich cultural vein that runs deep and strong through what we like to call, we're not necessarily the coal region, but obviously the coal region infiltrates the surrounding area. So, is Catawissa considered the coal region or no?
It is. It is part of the coal region.
All right. I wasn't that far off then. Good. Growing up around all this, obviously, like, rich, beautiful, culinary tradition, were you picky, or did you pretty much eat anything put in front of you?
Pretty much ate anything.
Attaboy. That's what we like to hear, man. Looking back to that halushki aside, are there any foods that like you think back to that give you that nostalgic pang? Like maybe for whatever reason you can't get it the way you remember it anymore?
Yeah, when I was a kid, my grandmother on my father's side, fully the Polish side of the family, she used to make all sorts of just that stuff, the halushki, halupki, but in like our Easter, unlike a lot of other places, our Easter was all like cold foods, like cold meats, like cuts of meats like kielbasa and kolska and all these weird named meats. And I'm talking about like bacon slabs and all
hell yes
that stuff.
God, you are speaking my I must have been Polish in another life. I'm not sure, because every time I hear shit like that, I'm like, oh, like that's oh my God. How do you not love that? Of course, how do you not, how do you live past 50 eating like that? But that's for another time, perhaps. Culinary influence, obviously, you're not here necessarily because of your culinary pedigree, but I got to imagine you cook, man. I think I can pick up on that vibe pretty quickly. Do you cook presently? Are you into cooking, or are you more of a meat kind of guy? Like, what's your tale of the tape there?
I I like to dabble in almost anything. I do love doing barbecue. Most of my knives that I've made for my own use are meant for barbecues. Cutting slabs of meat and stuff like that.
All right, right on. Like carvers, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, right on. So, who do you think gravitated you towards the love of that barbecue? Was there any figure growing up that maybe made you look at that and go, that's something I want to like obsess over later? Kind of like me and smoking meats, but that's for another time, perhaps.
I mean, my dad grilled food for us, and as I got older, I kind of took over that. Like when we would go to the lake for a week for like a picnic, I would be the one to do all the grilling of like the burgers and the hot dogs and stuff like that.
Cool, man.
So just kind of always was there.
Okay. Well, that makes sense then. And so let's bring it forward a little bit and focus on current state. Now we know, just by professional association alone, kind of where we were professionally. But again, outside of work, one becomes a food podcaster and the other becomes a freaking blacksmith. Talk to me about how that happened. How the hell? I shouldn't even say that because I'll be honest, it's interested the hell out of me. But like brewing beer is a big enough lift for me. I have a propane tank like in my brew room and I feel like a badass. Here's you saying, no, I'm going to like forge hot metal and cheat death. How the hell did you land in blacksmithing as a hobby? Now, let me press pause real quick. I know that you and I also share another affiliation with the role-playing guild at Bloomsburg University. Is that true?
Yes.
Confirm, deny? It is confirmed. Glenn Moyer, how you doing? So I think it's natural that like people who dabble in like D&D, going to Ren fairs. I imagine you're a Ren fair fan as well. You better be, goddammit.
Oh yeah.
All right, very good. So I think that's a pretty natural course, to at least have interest proceed in. But then to actually pull the trigger on it, I'm interested in knowing how you made the jump into it as a hobby. How'd that go down?
So, in 2016, in the fall, my wife and I had gone down to the PA Ren Fair down in Mannheim. Mm-hmm. And just walking around, and they have their little forge set up down there, and I saw the guy doing a show, and they had a little grandstand around it, and sat down and watched the tail end of it. And when he was done, he was answering some questions, and everybody kind of filtered out. And I stopped over and was asking him about his setup, and he goes, "Oh, well, if you're interested, we're going to start doing classes." And I was like,
Holy
"You mean
shit.
like real classes?" And he goes, "Yeah, we're going to teach people how to make a railroad spike knife."
Oh my God. Pause. I don't want to blow your story up. I really don't. And it's because of scheduling issues, and we couldn't make it happen. And here, I'm actually going to pull this off mic because I don't want to blow your story up, but I have to know because it's going to, like, I'm going to be sitting here twitching the whole time if I don't ask you.
Yep.
Was it Great Man?
It was Bert, his partner.
Okay, cool. All right. We're going to go back on here now.
Okay.
So that's purposeful airspace just to kind of, show the listeners what a secret feels like on an audio-only podcast. Although I'm sure going back through the audio, they're going to hear it. So anyway, continue with your story. So you do this demo. You start to do these classes with the railroad spike knife.
Yeah, so they had the class, and I took that, and I liked it. I was like, "Well, this is pretty fun. I think I'm going to maybe throw together a little setup at home." Mm-hmm. So I have a barn, so I have a good spot that I can make it, and was doing that for a little bit, just pounding away like old railroad spikes, trying to make my own knives, just for fun. And they had a second class lined up, and they asked me if I wanted to go to that. And I said, sure. And just so happened, the 2 weeks following that, I was still working for Voldemort. And
I like calling them Voldemort. That's fun.
And I was in Duncannon, which is right near their shop.
Yeah.
So I spent 2 weeks. Every night I would leave my clinic. I would go over to the shop. I would work for them, go and help them do their stuff, and then go back to my hotel room, and that was 2 weeks.
That's goddamn incredible, though. What? How serendipitous is that?
It was amazing. I was just so blown away that they even invited me to come back and do that.
Yeah, for sure. And real quick, I want to take a step back. You say, I tossed a quick setup in my backyard. What the hell does a setup even involve, Shawn?
So I had to put together a forge. That was the learning.
Oh yeah, sounds really easy. Yeah, I put one together this morning.
So it was figuring out the best type of burner and the fittings and putting together an actual forge, which was like an old water tank that I cut apart and lined, and it was definitely flying by the seat of my pants and learning not to burn my barn down.
Okay, all right. And so you go to Duncannon and you're doing these after work sessions.
Yep, and then had made my awesome barbecue knife and went home after my 2 weeks, and it was maybe 2 months later, I got axed from Voldemort.
Yeah, they do that there at the Harry Potter Academy.
Yeah, so I got axed and was kind of down on my luck, looking for work, and just so happened to talk to one of the guys who was teaching, and he said, well, we'd always have you down here. He goes, come on down and work out some frustration and help us work in the shop. So I did that as I was job hunting.
That's beautiful.
And then one day they asked me if I wanted to be a teacher for them.
God, really? That's awesome.
So I am still today I'm an ad hoc teacher for them. I go down there when they need another set of hands and teach classes.
Oh my God, that is phenomenal. Do you teach classes at your setup?
I have done one-on-one session so far.
Okay.
I might get into that more. It's just the whole liability insurance and business stuff.
Of course. Yeah, definitely. But wow. And see, you know what? Isn't it funny how you fall into the right fit when what you think is the right fit falls off? That's awesome, dude. So incredible. So glad to hear it. And so here you are now, Roslevich Blacksmithing LLC. Be sure to check them out on Facebook. Those of you listening, please. Tell me about what that involves. Like, what do you do with that?
So I started the whole LLC because I started doing powwow circuits. My friend invited me out to a powwow one weekend a couple years ago, and he said, hey, you want to come out and sell your knives? And I wasn't available, but he took my knives out to sell. Didn't sell a single one, by the way, but had a lot of good reviews. People were like, oh, these are amazing. Are these machined, like bought from a company? And he's like, no, a guy I know hammered them out. So the next year came around and they're like, oh no, come here and sell them yourself. And I sold 2.
Okay.
But I was like, okay, that's not terrible for a first timer. And they invited me back to one a couple months later. And they're like, hey, can you do demos? And I was like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, can you do this on site? And I was like, I don't have any of that set up, and it's 3 weeks to go till the powwow. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, if you could throw something together, we'd love it. And so I don't know how I did it, but in 3 weeks, I managed to put together a second forge, a mobile anvil stand, and a mobile vise. And packed up everything I had and drove to Knoxon, Pennsylvania for a powwow.
Are you goddamn serious?
And started doing a 2-day stretch of just 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night, just forging. Finding out different stuff.
But you know what's crazy? And I liken like the smithy, because if you go to the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair, for example, and there's been a guest or two from the Ren Fair who have graced the airwaves with us. There's several. I shouldn't say several. There's a couple smithy stands there, and it's mesmerizing. Now, I like to blame the 8 flagons I've drank before starting watching this happen, but I do. I stand there and I stare, and I am mesmerized by the art. Like, you are literally taking what is to be considered the hardest material, or one of the hardest materials on Earth, and bending it to your very will. And so I almost think, more than the end product, the process is like the theater, you know?
Yeah, it really is.
God, that's amazing. And so this travel setup, you got talk me through how you set up I can't believe I'm saying these words. Talk me through how you set up a traveling forge. Like, what does that look like?
So, my traveling forge is a smaller water tank, but it has just a single burner.
Yeah.
I have removable legs for it. Everything breaks down and just kind of stows in the back of my vehicle. I have my anvil, which is a 112-pound anvil that I have to pick up and carry everywhere to store it anywhere. I had to carry 2 20-pound propane tanks with me because one will last a day. I'll burn through a full 20-pound tank in a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so that's my next question. You know, when you take this traveling setup, like, what can, best case scenario, what can you make in a day? Like,
let's see. Since when I'm at a show, I normally do like things I don't need to sharpen because I don't have my grinding tools, my belt grinder, my shop.
Gotcha.
So I'll make wands. I'll make tent stakes. I'll make hairpins, and for the ladies, I'll make these things called penannular brooches. They're like cloak pins.
Oh, nice.
You'll see, like in Lord of the Rings, that they held their cloaks together with.
Yeah.
I'll forge those out. I'll forge bracelets, necklaces, pretty much anything.
God damn, man, it's so funny to think that like a traveling setup could actually still do all of that. But you know, the other thing I want to touch on here, you know, especially handling the beautiful, I cannot express this enough, folks. Go out to my Instagram, look at the pictures of this beautiful thing shaving. I can't tell you, Shawn, it shaved the lamb off the shank, which if you know about lamb shanks, they're not exactly smooth cuts. There's a lot of stuff in and amongst the mix. And it was like I was shaving with a hot razor on a chin made of butter. It just went right through and it just fell off. It was beautiful. But these knives, this is probably one of the biggest things I hear from people, you know, when I say, oh, well, you know, you want to buy Henkel knives or you want to buy some custom build knives, and like, oh, that's too much money. There's a lot of work that goes into a knife. And so taking it a step further, take me from your travel gear now into your home gear. Talk me through the process of making a knife fit for the kitchen. You know, it's not as quick and easy as like an assembly line. I know this. I've watched Forge and Fire. Probably others have watched it. But walk us through it. What do you start with, and how do you end up having a usable knife?
So I usually start with an idea. So I ask, what do I want in the end? And so when you came to me with this Nikiri idea, I wanted to know how long it had to be. Mm-hmm. So that I could look at other pictures of a normal Nikiri and then figure out how wide it needed to be. Mm-hmm. And then I start out with just 1075 steel, which is meant for like blades. Okay. But it's all 1/4 inch, and it's just rectangles basically, or odd shapes from cutoffs. Mm-hmm. So then I have to go through and see, okay, I want it to be a 9-inch Nikiri. Well, I have to account for the tang. I have to go from a rectangle shape to the actual knife shape. Mm-hmm. I have pictures out there on my Facebook and Instagram of the first rough forged shape of that knife. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not going to lie, like an expectant father seeing the ultrasound for the first time, I literally had that same feel. I'm like, there he is! Look at him, he's growing! He's going to be a real knife someday! It was actually kind of sad. I'm not going to lie. I should be ashamed. By the way, Roach570, ROACH 570, out on the Instagram and out on the Twitter. Keep going, buddy. So, yeah, I figured out how much metal I needed. I hammered it all by hand. I don't have any power hammers or presses in my shop right now. So I had to draw it out there nice and thin, but I had to make sure it was straight. And I mean, when you do anything in blacksmithing, when you go to quench a knife to get it hard, there's a good chance it's just going to bow or bend if it's really thin.
Yep.
So it's super, like, delicate work to get everything just right. And then sharpening the knives, I mean, that takes the longest. Shaping it and then sharpening it. And I hand built my belt grinder in my shop with my buddy. And that thing's a 2-inch by 72-inch belt grinder. Spins about 3,600 RPM. One wrong move and I can take my knuckle off.
No shit, yes.
I've burned through quite a pair of leather gloves just by accidentally nicking myself.
Damn, wow.
So yeah, it's a lot of going through different grits of belt to get that nice profile, nice bevel on there. I mean, I think that knife I made you is the steepest bevel I've ever made on a knife. It took a long time. It
is beyond appreciated. And I have to say, too, one of the things I love about Shawn's knives, I'm saying like I have experience. The knife that Shawn made me, that's better, was that you left the imperfect part of the blade at the top. Like the totally unfinished. And it's so sexy to me. Because, like, to me, I want to know where something came from. I don't just want this pristine, clean. The podcast is called the Coarse Grind Podcast because if I'm going to grind something, I don't want to ground to a fine powder. Give me some texture. Give me something to work with. Give me some character. And that knife, dude, I swear to God, like, it spoke to me. It had a soul. So it just, I love that. Now, why did you choose to leave blades like that? Because I know that's kind of your thing, right?
It is. Leaving that rough texture to it, those hammer marks, those little pits and stuff. That's always been my look. I love the look of the rustic blades.
Agree.
I don't like things that look machine polished too much.
Yeah. No, totally agree. And the other thing to mention, which again, if you're looking for a custom knife, and listen, if you're in the kitchen at all, I can't recommend it enough. You should be looking at custom cutware, not just these Costco knives that are going to bust, bend, break, and go dull on you. Like, spend good money on good cutlery. That's all I'm going to say. One of the most beautiful aspects of the knife that I haven't actually, I don't think I've even mentioned this to anyone yet. So here you go. My father brought the headboard from my childhood bed that, like, I laid in until I moved out of that house down to Bloomsburg, and it was maple, right, buddy?
Yep.
Yeah, it was a solid maple headboard, and Shawn made me a handle from my childhood headboard. So, I mean, if you're looking for, like, sentiment, yes, I believe all blades have a soul. Like, I love that about knives. And then to put that on it was just the coup de grace. Like, I couldn't have asked for more. So again, go out, check out the Facebook, and the Instagram posts. I pretty much plastered them with it. I will be, featuring that beautiful thing as long as I possibly can, like no other knife before, to be sure. So that's like knives. Give me a little bit more about all the other things you do with regards to your forge. So we talked about, what did we talk about so far? We talked about tent stakes. We talked about the non-sharpened items. We talked about the kitchen knives. What else can you do with that forge? And I know it's pretty much everything, but go on. Go ahead.
Cooking a mean steak. I can definitely use the forge.
I can see the shit out of that in 5 seconds.
Actually, I do that quite often. When I'm at a show, I have like little hot dog forks I made, and my wife and I will just cook hot dogs in front of my forge.
That is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life. Oh my God, I love you both. All right. And by the way, hi to Mrs. Roslevich. I'm sorry I wasn't more engaged the other night. I was so knife happy. I had to get it in split. So hi. So you cook hot dogs in your forge. That might be the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. So I make a lot of camping tools like tent stake pullers, ladles, big spatulas. Made some fireplace tongs, a lot of fire pokers. But I also make things like tripods for like cooking Dutch oven, cooking over a fire, and trammels to lower and raise the thing. That's like one of my favorite things to make. aside from knives.
That's awesome, man. Because there again, you and I share something in common, kids and scouts, right?
Yep.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Go Scouts. Go Scouts. So all this camping gear, all these knives, Roslevich Blacksmithing LLC, out on the Facebook, Roach570, out on the Instagram, out on the Twitter. There's nothing not to love. And what I think is so cool about what you're doing, dude, is that you're getting out and you're demoing it and you're making it a thing. Because I think, and I've actually had a couple guests on who we've talked about being makers. Like, this pandemic really brought out the maker in us. I've gone into creating custom hot sauces. I've gone into brewing 6 batches of beer in 1 year versus 1. Like, that's, it's kind of upped our creativity. And so here we are in this. And here's you then going back out into the community because of what a good person you are to, like, for example, Bloomsburg Children's Museum. They're having the Mini Makers Fair coming up April 10th, I believe.
I believe that's right.
And what are you going to be doing there?
I'm probably going to be doing my blacksmith demos, just making some railroad spike wands for the kids. Mm-hmm. Just hammering away safely. Luckily, with my field of blacksmithing, social distancing is very easy to maintain.
Goddamn guaranteed, man. It is goddamn guaranteed. That's awesome. That's awesome. So again, Mini Makers Fair locals, April 10th, at the Children's Museum. You don't want to miss it. It's amazing. So talk to me real quick, because I'm sure you have, above and beyond what you're doing right now, you've got a 5-year plan somehow, some way, or at least future goals. What do they look like for you, buddy?
Just doing more events, more powwows. 2020 definitely hit us hard. Like, every single one got canceled.
Yeah.
Still not sure about this year, what's going on with them. Still reaching out to a lot of people. My 1-year plan is to get more shows going. My 5-year plan is to just build my business, do a lot more custom knives, a lot bigger things. I have a hydraulic press that my buddy and I built. We call it the Frankenstein. I plan on getting that to my shop so I can do larger things.
Nice, man.
Start getting some Damascus made.
Ah, there it is. There it is.
Towards the end of that 5-year plan is possibly, and don't hold me to this, possibly applying for Forged in Fire.
It's on the internet, so it's true. There you go. You heard it here. Shawn Roslevich is applying to Forged in Fire tomorrow. No, he's not. He's not. Calm down. He needs time. He takes it seriously, and I would expect nothing less of such an expert. And so, you know what? You're going to do all those things. You're going to do beyond those things. Let's transition into the afters, into uncharted territory. Bring your blades. You're going to need them. I am standing, typically I say standing in your kitchen. I'm going to say standing in your forge. Not literally in it, because I'd be dead, but near it. What music am I listening to with you?
I listen to a lot of hard music, a lot of Slipknot,
nice.
Things that get your blood pumping. I use the forge as a stress reliever.
Love it.
Working on computers all day, like you do really get annoyed sometimes, especially when it's your own computer.
Yes. Yes.
So I use that, get away all that aggression, and that hard music really keeps me focused.
Love that. Love that to death. Next question, a theoretical one. So, we can say factually what you listen to, but theoretically, Shawn, if I'm going to strand you on a deserted island, and you can only take 3 foods or food type items with you, and you can bring a belt of knives. I'm going to give you that because you're the blacksmith and you made the goddamn things. But you can only bring 3 foods or food type items with you. What would they be and why? Inexhaustible supply, by the way. Kind of like a bag of infinite holding. You have a limitless supply. You're the first guest I could actually make that goddamn reference that I think of every time I ask the question. Bag of infinite holding. Nobody else would get that. No one else would understand that.
I have a backpack that's called the backpack of holding, and a messenger bag called the messenger bag of holding.
Oh my god, I love it. I love it. You are the only person I could ever share that joke with. It's not even a joke. It's real. It's real, people. Magic is real. All right. So what would you bring? Infinite supply.
Infinite supply. Probably rice, just because I love rice.
Love it.
Cheese, because if you don't like cheese, there's something wrong.
Agreed.
And venison. I love venison.
Dude, you got it covered. Because, I mean, if you want a little lighter protein, catch your goddamn fish. Pick the citrus off the tree. You're gold, man. You're gold now. And now, see, now that you said venison, I'm going to have to send you my boy's first deer that he fell.
Nice.
Last year. Yeah, he was out 20 minutes and he dropped his first deer. This year, he was out 30 minutes and he dropped it. He doesn't have to try. It annoys me. I digress. So rice, cheese, venison, in addition to cutting implements. That is pretty phenomenal. There is a wonderful photographer turned author. I don't know if she's an author, but she made 2 coffee table books of her photography. Melanie Denea, My Last Supper and The Next Course. 50 world famous chefs in both, and 1 picture of each, and they're all asked the same questions. And definitely given the background from the Role Playing Guild, I am interested beyond words to hear your response to this. Your ticket is getting punched tomorrow. Your last meal is tonight. What would you eat? What would you drink? Who would be there? What music would be playing?
What would I eat? Think it would definitely have to be T-bone steak with garlic and butter.
Love it.
Buy some nice mashed potatoes and maybe some cream corn. One of my favorite meals.
Yeah, boy. Nice.
To drink, I think I would have to go with just a lager.
Beautiful. Any brand in particular? This could be career defining for you, sir.
Honestly, there's a Icelandic makes a white ale. I think I'm going to go with that.
Dude,
I love Icelandic.
Is it the one with the light blue label with the white lettering on it? Yes, I know the one you're talking about. That's incredible. That would pair ridiculously. Who's there? Who's enjoying it with you?
My wife, definitely my wife.
Damn straight. Absolutely. And any music in the background?
Knowing my wife and I, probably Halloween music. We love this band called The Long Losts.
Oh my God, The Long Losts. I have never heard. I'm going to ask, are they good? Of course they're good. He listens to them.
They're amazing.
Yeah? All right.
They're all about Halloween. They're the cutest couple. It's a husband and wife duo.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome, dude. Paints a hell of a picture. And finally, and I'm going to augment this for you, sir. I'm going to augment this for you. What is smithing to you in a single word?
Freedom.
Ooh. And he said that he said that I heard his foot stomp when he said that. Freedom. Tell us a little bit about that. Why is it freedom?
It is freedom to make whatever you want out of whatever you want.
I love that.
I mean, I can just pick up a piece of scrap metal and make the most beautiful knife. And I don't even have to think about it. It just happens. The metal tells me where it wants to go, and I just help it there.
You couldn't chisel the grin off my face with one of your tent spikes if you tried. God, that's beautiful, dude. That's that spirit they talk about so many times on shows like Forged in Fire. And like, you know, if we're lay people, we go, oh, that sounds really romantic. But to hear it and then to have wielded your blade, damn, Shawn, you are doing something special. So thank you, brother. That is it, man. That is the last question. You survived. Congratulations. Mini Makers Fair at the Bloomsburg Children's Museum on April 10th. Roslevich Blacksmithing LLC out on the Facebook. Roach570 out on the Twitter, out on the Instagram. Am I missing anything?
No, I think that's about it. I'm happy you had me. Thank you so much. I'm glad you love the knife.
Yeah.
Be careful with it.
Yeah. Believe me, I was I was pulling what would normally be a pretty fervent stroke. I'm like, I better be careful with that there, Clark. So I made sure to be safe, but I assure you, this will not be, the last you hear from me. And who knows, maybe at the next live event, maybe Roslevich Blacksmithing is there doing a little smithing pre-show. Who knows? It could happen. Don't say no. It could be a thing. So, brother, I appreciate it. It's so good to catch up with you. I'm so glad you're doing so well, and I appreciate your time as always, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 158 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With me this evening, the Griswold-esque, if you're into Diablo, Shawn Roslevich. That's a blacksmith reference. Go with it. If not, look it up on the Google. Our producer, as always, has been the lovely, voluptuous Johnny Leland Robinson, a.k.a. the Reverend Johnny Lamoria. Be sure to check out his reboot of his show out on the Facebook and the Insta. Our next episode will be number 160. Stay tuned. Are you passing through central Pennsylvania and looking for one of the best dining experiences and craft brew menus around? Look no further. Turkey Hill Brewing Company and 991 Central Road in Bloomsburg, PA has everything you could ask for and then some. Service, food, beer together. Unbelievable. Be sure to check them out. Call them today for reservations. 570-387-8422. Call today.